everyone. Welcome to a new episode of JKL Media, where we're just finishing up our series on the Peripheral. Today, we'll be talking about the last two episodes, and I have with me my lovely and talented co-host. That would be Lou. Hi, Lou.
Hello, everyone.
What's that?
A lovely and talented co-host.
Oh, there you go. And Jesse. Hi, Jesse.
Hello, Karen. Hello, Lou. Long time no visit.
Yeah, 20 minutes. So these two episodes, they're 7 and 8 of the first and only season, called The Doodad and the Creation of a Thousand Forests. So The Doodad, I think, is a very, very tightly packed and interesting episode. So we're going to start with that. And this has a lot to do with Tommy and the Picketts and Bob. So what are your thoughts, Jesse, on this episode?
Yeah, I really liked this episode. We talked about before we recorded. This was a slow burn to start out with me, and then by the time we got to this area, I really was enjoying the series, and I feel for everyone because this was announced that it was going to be renewed. And then they went, oops, sorry, psych. No, we're not renewing you. Which I was like, okay, that sucks.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so yeah, I just thought it was really, really strange. So yeah, I really enjoyed the series. I was happy that we spent time watching it, and I love these two episodes.
Yeah. Okay, Lou, did you remember everything about this episode, or because there was a reveal that had to do with Flynne that I was prompting you to remember earlier in our conversations, and I don't
Yeah. Are you talking about the bacteria?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had forgotten that detail, or it had never really caught my attention because I didn't really think it was that important, to be honest, and I still don't really think that it is. So it's it's the MacGuffin of the series, I think. But this was these two episodes just flew by. And I was talking to Jesse way back when we first signed on about how I just couldn't believe how fast they went. And even watching it on the second read time, it still had that same breathless quality about it, but in a good way. There's so much action, kinetic stuff going on in this episode, and I'm not sure. Was it? It's in this episode where Tommy deals with
Yep.
yeah.
With the
I love Corbell's
and Bob.
reaction when he shot the sheriff. He says, "I
Yep.
sure as hell didn't see that coming," and I went, "Neither did I. Neither did I."
Yep.
So yeah, jumping ahead, there I want to talk about fiction compared to reality, right? And so as a story, I absolutely love that Tommy, as the deputy shot the sheriff. I shot
Yep.
the sheriff, but I did not shoot the deputy. But in real life, that would be horrible.
Yep.
God, horrible. But as a storytelling, it was like good. He's evil. He's manipulating you, and what a very convenient, very smart decision on his part. If he can live with that guilt. And that's the question, right?
Yep.
If we had gotten a second season, how much would have this worked with him? But from a storytelling, I was like, good for you, right?
Yep.
You were going to have to betray your friends. You were going to have to do these things. And you came up with a wonderfully smart way to protect your family and protect your friends. So yeah, I love that scene. Did not see it coming. And but then when it did, I went, yes.
Mhm.
same thing similar to leaving them on the train track, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, jumping ahead a little bit, with Jasper, right?
yeah,
And I know that's the next episode, but like they treat you like shit. And they're doing this and they're all, being that. It's like, okay, maybe I'm making the tough decision. So in reality, these would be horrible people and I would be incredibly shamed. But as a storytelling technique, I loved the characters making these decisions.
they're very emotionally satisfying.
It
Karen,
is very emotive
yeah,
satisfying.
yeah, Karen, I'd like to propose something here, and if you don't want to do it now, then just say so. But because what Jesse's bringing up, if there's one aspect of this series, especially the last two episodes, there's a lot of unresolved plot points.
Mhm.
But the problem is, and this kind of gets into this whole multiverse nonsense that we've seen with comic book movies, and that is all these things that we're seeing are no longer going to be relevant if the series went forward because there's a new stub created. So we're never going to find out what happens in this timeline unless they do some sort of timey-wimey quantum tunneling, cross-tunneling thing that gets us back to this point. Because at the end of this season, and I'm still not sure how that worked out, Flynne is not the Flynne from this timeline that we've been following. So that timeline
Correct.
is lost to the future London. So all
Right.
the events that we've been watching all season are no longer accessible. Is everybody
You're
in agreement
correct.
with that?
And it also becomes irrelevant to Cherise because the goods that she has been chasing down are gone
Right.
because Flynn is dead. So
Right.
it becomes something that
So-
she doesn't need to be concerned with anymore.
Yeah. So, because the reason I'm bringing it up because I think it colors to a certain degree my enjoyment of the overall season as well, but it's particularly these last two episodes because there's so many, her mother's gonna die. What about Connor? Is he ever going to get back into a body? What happens to her brother? There's a lot of unresolved things, like with Jasper, what's going to happen with him? So all of that, but that's all going to be lost going forward, and that kind of
Right.
bums me out.
So what I thought they were going to do is similar to Fringe, except in this case there would be three timelines. There would be the original stub where Flynn is now dead,
hmm
the future where Flynn is now trying to set things right and work through, and then the new stub
Where she would
where
go back
she
and
lives and she's never been future timed.
right.
And I think that would be, I think you would show the new stub where everyone's living happily ever after, and then kind of wrap that up, and then just go with the two storylines of we still get our main character living in the future. And it is a little confusing about, well, if she's dead, how can she still be in the future? And that's because of this other stub.
Yeah.
Right.
But when does she learn how to body swap then? It was a little confusing to me, and I'm right there with you. But in my mind, Lou, that's where they would have done. They would have done some different storylines.
Yeah, that was where she works with what's her
Lowbeer?
name? The Lowbeer, yeah. Where
Yeah.
and we see it, we don't see it. It's off screen where
yeah.
Lowbeer, and I think it's because they want us to get that realization when she does jump into the body in the future timeline. Because she has asked Lowbeer several times about what she can do technologically.
hmm
Because it seems like Lowbeer can really do a lot of stuff that Zuboff and Cherise can't do.
Right.
So I'm assuming that's what happens, that she strikes this bargain with Lowbeer. And, Wilf is there as well. So Wilf is prepared to see her jump. And I agree with you. I think it would have been, and I just told Lou before we started that I hadn't read the second book yet. And the first book is slightly different. Overall it's the same, but some of the characters are compressed in the show. And thematically it's the same, but I don't know anything about the second book. So this is just speculation. I think it would have tied up that stub, and it would have created a new stub that would interact with Flynn in the future. That's my thought, at least. So we would have had the same conceit as in this season, where there's a stub in the future. And I think she would have worked to stop the jackpot from happening in that stub.
Okay, so let me just say this out loud to make sure that we're all on the same page. So when Flynn broke into that facility that had like all the technology that could help save her timeline in the past, she made a marker to a point in time before she was initially stubbed in the show, right? And that's the stub, and that's the point where Lowbeer would send her a new headset and create a new stub, right?
Correct. Yes.
And then I assume that because Lowbeer in that future is hooking up to the Finn in the past, that when Flynn is revived with Lowbeer at the end, that I'm assuming that Lowbeer is going to make all the knowledge of what happened on the other stub available to her, so that kind of, at least for Flynn, it preserves the fact that she realizes what happened after in that other stub that we just went through the whole season watching.
Correct.
And so she can carry forward with Lowbeer, and I guess they're going to take on the Neoprims or something like that, or maybe Cherise. I don't know. Who knows exactly what they're going to do. But that's how they get around not losing that timeline, because Lowbeer is still in that future and she's reconnecting with Flynn at a different point in time.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I got that right.
Again, I'm speculating here, but I have a feeling that there was a way to extract that Flynn and make a copy of her consciousness, and then Lowbeer puts it back into the new Flynn. I mean, that's just me.
Oh, okay.
Thinking that maybe she.
So you don't even think they stubbed back to the.
No, I do think they stubbed back to a new Flynn.
Okay.
But I think that she had a way, and again, it's just me speculating. She has a way to connect the old Flynn that was killed,
right,
and the new stubbed Flynn in the future, so that they merge. Right. And Flynn has all these memories. At least I'm hoping so, because we've connected with that Flynn, right?
Exactly. Or I'm wondering, did she just load the Flynn consciousness from the future into this robot, period?
Right.
Without the new stub. But why would Flynn then go pointing out this new stub for her? I'm hoping that that's what happened as well.
Right. And I know that we discussed whether we would read the second book or not. I think I'm going to. And I guess I'll let you guys know if it's something that I think you would benefit from.
Yeah.
Because I'm just speculating here on what would happen in the next book.
So I guess we've discussed it already. So if we want to go back to our normal flow of conversation, I hope I didn't derail. No,
you didn't derail us. That's part of these two episodes.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit of my frustration, guys, right? Is that I'm curious how they were going to, that's such a powerful ending with Connor talking about, the
restart,
bragging how well he could shoot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And then you understand, because at first I'm not sure what's going on. And then when I understand, I'm like, holy crap.
Yep.
What a cliffhanger. And you're like, can you permanently transfer right before you die? Can you permanently transfer your consciousness into that future, robot or whatever? I forgot.
And that would also neoprims.
Yeah. So if you can, then okay, that makes a lot of sense, right? That way we still get all of that. So yeah, I feel like that they must have thought they were going to get a second season.
Oh yes.
And they thought
it was already renewed by this point.
Yeah. And so that we're like, okay, we've got this, we're going to go. And then when you don't get it, I'm happy we watched the series. Absolutely. Because I think this was well done and it was a great journey. and I still may watch it all over again, but it is a little sad that we're like, well, damn, now then I'm not going to see the ending.
Yeah.
I want to see the ending. Yeah.
I mean, we do like I said earlier when we discussed like I guess it was the second and third, or the third and fourth episodes. I said, yes, it's going to have a conclusion, but it also it does a really good setup for the next season.
Yeah.
And it kind of does. I mean, I hate that it's kind of a cliffhanger, but we do wrap up that stub at least. We know that the jackpot's going to happen there, but there's not going to be interference that speeds it up. This town isn't going to be wiped off the map because Cherise doesn't need to do that anymore. And so we do get that kind of, and I hesitate to say happy ending, but we get that happy ending for the stub where, it's not a nuclear war on this town and it starts the jackpot. But again, we do kind of have this big mystery as to, where we go next. And I do like that it's based on novels because we don't have to wonder if we don't want to. We can get more of the story. So that's always good. I mean, it's not like Firefly that didn't have any books or anything and they had to wrap it up with a movie. I kind of hold out hope that they would do something else, but I think they've abandoned it at this point. I do think that maybe Amazon still owns the rights to it. And when they canceled it, they can't really do anything with it, which is unfortunate. It really is. I think it was a very good miniseries, and it would be nice to have had the whole trilogy. And again, we don't have the third book yet, but to have the whole trilogy out so that we get a full rounded story. It's kind of mean that they allowed them to set up the next series and then pulled the rug out from under us. Okay, so let's talk about the clinic.
After we've gone all over the place. Thank you for being so kind to us.
No problem. I'm glad we talked about it. It's part of these two episodes, like I said.
Kind of was the big elephant in the room.
Right. We needed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the clinic and what happens there. Bob shows up at the clinic and takes Ella and what's her name? Hostage. Tommy's
fiance, the doctor.
And some bad things happen there, which made me sad. I didn't like seeing Reese die, but man, does it show his fortitude. How many times does he get stabbed and he's still fighting back the whole time? I think it was a good way to end Bob. I was so upset about all that, but yeah, we mentioned how we liked the character of Bob, even though we don't like him really. And I wanted to know what you thought of what happened in the clinic.
So I'll jump in. One of the things I liked about this is we had not got to see Flynn's mom do much. And this was really nice. Like, there's another option, right? You're saying your daughter dies or my children die. You're not thinking of another option. And that's you dying. And kind of, I love that her, it shows her strength. It shows where her children get their strength. So I really liked that scene. And I liked the idea, once again, this is so well done to show how elite this force was, right? That Burton and everyone together, right, are so well done that I just like that scene a lot. And I read somewhere that they were trying to set up a love triangle between Tommy, because he, has always had a kind of torch for Flynne, and his fiance. And I'm like, no, I don't want that love thing. I think him and his fiance are perfect together. I think
Yeah.
they're a really strong couple, and I think Tommy cares about her
I thought
the same way.
wasn't
Yeah, go
Flynne the
ahead.
one that carried the torch?
Yeah, Flynn had a crush
Oh,
on
Flynne is the
Tommy.
one.
Yeah.
Okay,
But that's all
okay,
right.
Yeah.
okay, good. But he's
I
always
know
talking
that
about how
Tommy had a soft spot for her, big
Yeah.
time.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
and I think no, I'm not a favor of that. But I just thought that was awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I also felt a little sad that Cordell's wife died, even though she was evil.
same.
I mean,
Yeah.
just there was nice, and so yeah, we'll get to that scene at Corbell's house. But yeah, Lou, your turn to talk about the clinic.
Yeah, I thought it was really well executed again. The conversation that the mother had with Bob about the third option was just like, you're going, shit, this woman has got her stuff together. Like, she's just not your typical mountain mama, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
So she's a very intelligent person. I thought that the fight scene was very brutal. It had sort of shades of Saving Private Ryan, if you remember that one particular
Yep.
scene. Kind of reminded me of that, just the way he was slicing and dicing him. And then his whole conversation with the doctor about you might get one good stab in, he said, but I believe in, the more cuts, the better, kind of thing. So I thought that was all very chilling, and I just, and then oh, what's his name? The brother. You just said it, Burton and Connor, scoping out the situation and using the haptics to sort of like shock Reese's body, and that pulls Bob off his chair, and then they kill him. I thought that was all really well done. Just fantastically a good conclusion to that arc for Bob. I thought it was just really well done, and yeah, it just really good character moments for everybody all around. Really, just a really well done sequence.
Yeah, I think Bob thinks he's playing chess, but he's really playing checkers when it comes to Burton. Burton and his team know how to use their haptics to fight. That was the whole point of them having these haptics. And I thought it was really smart of the writers, quote unquote, whoever it was, that they used Reese's body. Reese would have approved, definitely, of them using him to draw Bob away.
Yeah.
And they kill him. And I love that this is the ending of Bob, because we get to see him interact with almost every character, right? He interacted with Tommy, with the sheriff, with Corbell, with Flynne, with Burton, with Reese, with the mother, with the doctor. I mean, he really did. Oh, and Bobby, whatever, the best friend. I love that he interacted with everybody. It's kind of like a Fargo situation, where the killers interact with everybody and they're thwarted at every turn. And that I just really appreciated that scene, that it kind of throws a bunch of the threads together. And then we also get that it kind of sets up the whole way. We talked about how Tommy, it was a surprise that he shoots the two men at Corbell's house. But I love that this whole thing comes together in a way that Tommy is off the hook. They can blame all of that on Bob, that Bob killed everybody so he could escape, and that he ended up dying, so Bob couldn't refute anything. So he can blame everything on him and get off scot-free, which kind of turns him into a bad guy, but also the hero. It kind of flips both ways. He gets his nefarious way in killing all these bad guys. So I would love to see what happens to Tommy moving forward. I don't know that would happen because he's not exactly one of the main characters, but I do love that. And I like the parallel between Tommy and Jasper, that they both end up killing the people that have made their life more difficult but they do it because they're kind of in a grudging way. I don't think Tommy wanted to kill them, but he felt like he had to. You see that scene with him calling himself a coward in the truck, that he is going to do the sheriff's bidding. And then he realizes, I can't be a coward. I got to step up and do something. And Jasper's the same way. I don't want to be a coward. I want to fight back against them. So I'm going to do this horrible thing. And he regrets it as well. He wants to save them. He tries to wake them up, but then ultimately he ends up letting it happen. And I'm assuming he would also get off scot-free, because that could look like an accident, that they just ended up stuck on the tracks. So I thought that was an interesting parallel. So you guys want to talk about either or both of those scenarios?
I'll let you go first this time, Lou.
Yeah, I think you've covered it, Karen. I don't really have much to add to that.
Yeah, I loved this, the conversation afterwards, right? Like, he was talking about them playing Monopoly. And
Yep.
first off, I can never remember finishing a game of Monopoly my whole life.
Ugh,
I think we just play till we're like tired, right?
right.
We're just,
So you're
or like,
sick of it.
yeah, and then it's like, okay, who had the most money? Okay, you won. Or let's just go do something else. So in fact, I didn't even know for the longest time how you won at Monopoly, you know?
Yeah.
So in the idea, and she's like, no, I love your softness. I love your gentleness, and then he realizes that, he was about to do something that he shouldn't. And I do not think he is justified as much as Tommy.
Right.
Tommy, I think, was absolutely, these are bad people that are they're threatening to hurt me. They're threatening to hurt my wife. They're threatening to hurt my friends. And so therefore, I'm willing to do the tough. It is kind of, I was like, shit, you should have made sure he was dead. Why are you doing this, right?
Yeah.
But gives you a nice, if you had gotten the second season, right? Like, he would have used that to manipulate Tommy. He would not have
Right.
reported him.
Of
He
course
just would
not.
have totally just like, okay, now I own you. You're
Right.
the new sheriff and I own you totally. So yeah, I just thought that was really well done. And it it is kind of funny, right? Like, he left the keys in the car, right?
Yeah.
It's like banging, banging, banging. And the idea, what the train
Yeah.
smashing it.
Well, those guys aren't good guys either.
No, they are not. That's true. Yeah.
So it's not like people are going to be crying that they're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
There's a big drug dealers in town and lackeys for
Yes.
Corbell. So not to the same extent,
Yeah.
but Jasper did a service, I think.
Yes, he did. And and it set that up like that they're making him, like, they laugh at him. Well, why couldn't I be,
Mhm.
in charge or be part of it? And they're just like, you're the lackey,
Yeah.
And even though, and I just finished rewatching House of the Dragon, right? That, well, he was the heir. He had blood ties, right? He should at least have that, but like, no, they're not. And talk about Dumb or Dumber.
Right.
Three trying to run. No way they could do, because whatever you may think about Corbell being evil, he wasn't dumb.
Right.
He was very smart. And these guys were not smart at all.
No, they would have gotten caught.
Oh,
I mean,
so
they
quickly.
definitely would not have understood how to take over and run the town.
Mhm.
So, I don't think Jasper would either. I think Jasper's going to be even worse at it if he does end up inheriting things.
Absolutely.
But I would like to think that Jasper would maybe turn things around if he got his hands on some of Pickett's money. But that's just me. I doubt that he would factor much into a second season either. But I thought it was cool that they kind of had these parallel storylines between them.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's see. Lowbeer. I especially want to talk to you about Lowbeer, Jesse, because we had mentioned how much we loved this character. And I feel like she didn't get a lot of screen time, but she really had a huge impact. And she is a character.
She is a wonderful character, right? And the scene where they're in, I think it's the next episode, where they go to the training facility.
Yeah.
And she talks to Flynne while the two boys go have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Was just so well done. And of course, you know me, I'm always about the ships. And I'm like, oh, maybe Connor and this other, that's her
Beatrice.
Yeah, her daughter, that she doesn't let him know that it's her daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is just maybe that, we could get a little something there. That was really so well done and so nice. That was a really, really wonderful scene, right? And they're both just living off this because they're getting to play in a quote unquote real world video game.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And the only weapons you get are the ones you steal from your things. And
From your environment.
Yeah. And like every level is going to get harder and harder. And she's like, and by now my rookies are already 2 or 3 levels ahead of you. And they're like, okay, we'll take that challenge. I just thought it was just really nice. And the idea, you guys had talked so much about the Lowbeer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I see she is so charismatic,
Yep.
so interesting, and for the first time you kind of feel, oh, there's someone who is in the future that is actually trying to do what's the right thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now then Flynne has a true partner, even though I think Wilf is trying to be. I just saw, oh, okay, them working together next season, that would have been fun.
It would have been fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think Wilf would have made up for the fact that Lowbeer doesn't have a connection with Flynne.
Yeah.
She's more of a thinker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think Wilf would have been that touchstone for Flynne, where
I
she
agree.
could ground herself. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got kind of a Casablanca vibe with Lowbeer and Flynne. This is
Yes.
the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Absolutely well done.
Yeah. Lowbeer she's just so precise and insightful with her and funny and witty with her dialogue. I just thought the actor just really nailed that role. She must have really enjoyed that. It's just too bad. I could see a series just with her, like and Wilf could be her Dr. Watson kind of thing or whatever. But it just makes me sad beyond the fact that the series didn't get a second season. But it's just sad that these characters never really got a chance to have a finished arc, even within the season itself. And it just didn't happen to Lowbeer. It happened to quite a few characters, actually, like with Brandon and Connor. And, well, we know her mom's going to pass away. But even like Wilf just wasn't really in the back half of that last episode. So it's just kind of sad that all these untapped, climaxes to all these characters' storylines. And I just loved how every new character that was brought into the future seemed to be more powerful than the previous one, because like you had Zuboff, and then you had Cherise, and then you had Lowbeer, and there's a lot of mental chess going on there, a lot of subtext for you to chew on and to interpret in your own mind as to exactly what's going on. So it's what a nice touch that we found out that Beatrice was made in the image of her daughter, of Lowbeer's daughter. Like that, what a great touch that was. And you want to find out about what happened to her and where's the father and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, just so much unrealized potential, just sort of coming, rushing at you like a waterfall at the end of the season. It's just really, I can't say it's frustrating. It's just, oh, what's the right word to describe it? Unfulfilled, I guess. Yeah, it's just and again, I go back to my earlier remarks about I think the first two episodes were not structured properly to properly promote the season. So,
Agreed.
which is unfortunate because I think a lot of people probably gave up after the first episode or the second one even, right? Like, yeah.
Well, I said very much that I would, if we weren't watching this for this, I would have, after maybe the first one, maybe have gotten it two, I would have said, this just isn't for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I would have missed something really good. So, but it is that one of those things, and that's why it is so, I I am envious of creative people, showrunners, writers that figure out a way to connect with you and
Mhm.
get you hooked from the start. I mean,
Yep.
that is such a um, momentous task because there's so much out there.
Yep.
And there's so much people, there's so much stuff asking for our time, even if you don't even talk about books or video games or music, just TV alone, on your streaming, 57 channels, and there is something on, and you
Yeah.
just have this much. So yeah, I just love that.
Yeah. Lowbeer, I think, is one of my favorite characters in the series, and I would have loved to see more of her.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned, because we do see that Burton looks like he could have a thing for Beatrice, right?
Yeah.
Connor sure
And
does.
Connor, yes, and Connor, but I think they both are just attracted to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just how
She kicks
fully
ass,
functional are
right?
these robots?
Well, I mean, we see that Wilf is interested in Flynne,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
which
and that
is
he mentioned that his girlfriend jumped into, that he made a peripheral for his girlfriend to jump into. He didn't. It was a story, but it's a story that these people believe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we have seen that humans can have a relationship with peripherals, and I'm assuming that means that peripherals could have, or I'm sorry, neoprims could have relationships with other neoprims because they're essentially androids.
Yeah.
They do have a human component to them.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been cool to see all of them kind of bond as a team, because I would assume that they would. And
Yeah.
again, it would be a different Connor and Burton, but that's
Mhm.
neither here nor there.
Yeah, and I think it would have been, like I said, you would have had to try to figure out, okay, we've now got another timeline that we've got to figure out and what to do, but it would have been interesting. And I don't want to belittle Flynn's sacrifice to try to save her family and her town, but it would have, they would have had to figure out a way to honor that at the same time give us the characters we want to spend time with.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. And I think that, seeing the things that they did in this season, I think they could have taken that on.
Yeah.
It gives me confidence. And, these characters are very well-rounded, I think, at least the main characters and even some of the side characters. Like, I think
Yeah.
Tommy was
Yeah.
a very fleshed out character as well. His buddies, even though we don't see very many of Burton's war buddies,
Mhm.
we do get a very strong feeling of brotherhood from them. Of course, Connor is an amazing character as well. But
Mhm.
one of the things I love about Lowbeer is she has everyone's number right off the bat.
Yes.
Like, she knows from meeting someone what side they're on, what kind of person they are, what their character is. She hates Cherise. And I love that because it's like they're on different sides. Cherise knows that Lowbeer has a bunch of technology, but she doesn't know what it is. And Lowbeer knows that Cherise is hungry for that technology. And I really love the dynamics that she has with people because of her intuition. And like Lou said, I think she would have been great in her own detective series in the future, especially with the dystopian angle of it, because we would have had to work around all the deceptive things that they could do. They can project that there's people around them. So what could they have done to fool Lowbeer into thinking one thing or another? I think it would have been a really great, offshoot to see. Maybe I'll have to email William Gibson and see if he could write that.
Yeah, well, you might get more of that in the second book, right?
Maybe. Yeah. I have a feeling she's in the second book, right?
Is she in the first book?
Yes.
Okay, good.
She is a character in the first book.
Good.
So, is there anything else out of these 2 episodes that you think is relevant to talking about?
So I love the kind of the ending, and I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on when Lev is going to dinner with, lunch with his wife, right? And he's supposed to meet his parents and like, oh, don't make me do this. And instead there's the 3 people from the Russian mafia, I assume. Right.
Yep.
And they kind of, they F with him. Like, he's all nervous. And they were like, no. They're like, but you can't do it again. Right. So, what do you think they were setting up and kind of discuss this? Because everyone answers to someone else. Right. And we also, I'm a little confused about Ash and all that. It kind of got, the future was a little confusion when we're with Lev and Ash and all these other people and the cross, like who's cheating on who and who's double crossing who. So I'd love any thoughts about that from either one of you.
Yeah. Zubov, when he is confronted with the Russian people who are connected to his dad.
Yeah.
I think that, they're warning him off confronting RI. And I think that maybe they and Cherise were in on something together. So that's just my take on it. I don't know whether they were colluding or not or anything, but they definitely have an interest in whatever is happening at RI. So there's that. And I think it's interesting that he's not the guy that we think he is, right? He shows his clay feet in these 2 episodes. He's not such a hot guy. He is outsmarted by everyone. and it shakes him to the core. So I think it's very cool to see that Zubov isn't this guy that they set up as such a hot shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think part of the issue for the future stuff is that they were going to continue that stuff in the second season, which is why it's more unresolved than what we got in the present timeline. So that was my read on it too, because like you, Jesse, I was disappointed, especially like with Aelita, who started out to seemingly to be such an important character in the first episode, like that first scene that I think you said you rewatched was very important.
Yeah.
And her conversation with Wilfred in the second episode as well. And then she just kind of, flits in and out through the episodes. And we find out that at the end there that she's working with the Neoprims to try to bring down the current timeline. But that's just kind of felt anticlimactic for that character when she seemed to be set up to be this really all-powerful kind of guru person. And so I was hoping that to see more of that in the second season as well, because I was like, well, this Aelita is she's not really got the same stature that I thought that she had at the start of the series. So that's one of those threads that kind of petered out as well.
Aren't you kind of glad it petered out though? Because that would have been a lot of threads.
Yeah,
to include her in this season.
Yeah, which is why I think it would have gone further with it in the second season.
Right.
Yeah. The only other thing that stands out to me that we haven't talked about is the last conversation Flynne has with her mother, talking about the little acorn, and that takes on a whole totally different meaning when Flynne carries out her final plan. So I really thought that was another excellent scene as well, and just really sold the final part of the episode quite a bit. Just a really fantastic scene, especially for the mother telling her not to feel guilty and that she's sorry that she's burdened her daughter with her medical issues, but now she wants her to live her own life and not feel encumbered by any debt that she feels that she has to her mother. And I thought that was just a wonderful scene.
Right. Which allows her to die in that timeline without feeling guilty that she's leaving her mother.
Yeah.
Although it will be sad for Ella because she won't really know what the deal is. I think Burton and Conner will be sad, but they understand why she did it.
Well, Burton will never know the real reason. Connor's going to be carrying the guilt.
Well, won't Conner tell him why?
I don't know.
I would assume
they made
he
it
does.
they made it sound like they were going to
They were going to keep it.
blame it on
Oh,
hitmen
yeah.
hired by the
Cherise's
Cherise.
guy.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know if did Flynne make Connor promise not to tell Burton? I
don't know.
think she did, but
Mhm.
but that's going to be tough for Connor. Like especially because he's stuck in that timeline as a cripple.
Yep.
Yeah.
In another timeline, he could be a whole man.
Yep.
So
And Lowbeer has mentioned that things are very different in other timelines.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
if she goes back to Lowbeer, goes back to her timeline, that will be how it is. That Connor still and Burton
Yeah.
will be dead. So
And I think that's part of the reason why this is it's frustrating for me is that when you start talking about all this, it's like, well, what timeline again? How are we going to do this?
yeah,
So I'm kind of wanting to see how they would do that, right?
Yep.
How would they get
Yeah.
this going?
Yeah.
Because especially this would be much better if you could go right to the second season. Like
yes,
one of the
Mhm.
reasons why 12 Monkeys was very satisfying is not only is well written, but we were only waiting a week,
yeah,
right?
Right.
Maybe
Yeah.
2 weeks because if we had that where you were able to go fairly much and in a lot of ways it would be even better if you could just, binge straight ahead.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm just a kind of interesting thought, right?
Yeah, because one of the things that I would love to have seen is, for some reason, Connor and Burton from the original timeline had to be called into the future to help Flynne with something, and then they're both coming into that thing, and you're still alive, and then she would
Yeah.
have to say, "No, I'm not that Flynne. I'm another Flynne," and Connor knows that she's the other Flynne, but Burton doesn't. No
Yeah.
reason why, and that you would have all that kind of tension, and like how would they play that out, and that
Yeah.
that the dramatic possibilities of where the series left off are fantastic. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
but it's just that old business versus art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, it is. And it's easy for me to become the grumpy old man, like, well, why didn't they? But it is just the reality, right? That
Yeah.
just sometimes, they crunch the numbers and but it is just sad.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yep. Yep.
I agree. And I do think that this did well at Amazon, and that shows that they renewed it, but there were so many things working against the second season. We had the strikes and COVID all in
Yeah.
that time period.
And I wonder
So-
maybe the subsequent seasons they just looked at and said, no, these are too expensive for us to do. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Could have been that
And
too, because if it's more in the future, maybe that would have been more expensive. I don't know.
true.
Well, and also, I hear, and on the different podcasts and everything talk about is, like House of the Dragons, it's been almost 2 years, right, since they've had that. And, but it's a big name and it's a big brand.
Yeah.
And they wonder sometimes, like, okay, let's say the Peripheral didn't get a lot of buzz. It did okay. Are we going to is there a big clamoring for that coming back,
Right.
2-3 years later, right?
Right.
And so we're going to have to restart versus maybe we just have a fresh slate of a series or a source material that can work well. and it's weird, right? Like Suits all of a sudden found this new life in Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking about a sequel. And now then, White Collar, same thing, USA, they're talking about they're going to do a different version of that. So, it a lot to do is just timing, and I
Hmm.
do think the COVID and strike makes it where in often it would be a better world if you like, okay, I'm going ahead, I'm going to give you a 3-season order, do all books, and then here's your budget. I'm going to pay you a little bit less per episode, but you know what you need. Go make all 30 episodes and let's go for it. Right?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Agreed. Yeah, and also Psych. They did a bunch of movies
Yes,
after that
absolutely.
went off the
Yeah.
air. So yeah, I there's a double-edged sword to that kind of thing
Yeah.
where I mean it's cool to have more story, but also come up with something new, because sometimes you really do want something new. And, having a reboot or a prequel or whatever is tiring sometimes. But
Hmm. Yep.
so, I mean, it would have been great to get our second season. We're not going to get it. I have decided just now I am going to read the second book and I'll let you guys know.
Okay. Very good.
So, and at the very least, we do have it in other media. So if you do
Yeah.
want to figure out what went on, there you go.
Yeah.
So I am supremely glad that you enjoyed it, Jesse. I was hesitant to pick it because of the ending. Uh, I always seem to pick these things that have very unsatisfying endings, like Devs and this. But I do think that this was much more satisfying, that we did get a somewhat of a conclusion to the storylines in this season. And it just set up a really good premise for the next season. So I'm really glad you enjoyed it. And I'm glad you liked watching it again, Lou.
Mhm.
And maybe caught some
Definitely.
stuff you didn't catch the
Yep.
first time.
Yep.
So yay. I'm glad that this worked out.
Yippee.
So we'll say that if you'd like to send us any kind of feedback on anything that we talk about, you can reach us at jklb5podcast@gmail.com. And now I will turn to Lou and ask where they can reach you.
If you want to listen to this recap of the Peripheral series plus other JKL Media one-offs, such as ones that we did for Midnight Mass, Dev, Station 11, The English, Tragically Hip, Springsteen, Western Stars, Dark Matter, the book, not the TV series. I don't know if we're going to do the TV series. We Are the World, all these fun things. You can find them on YouTube at Lou's Reviews. You can find me on Twitter at Lou W. Sitzma. And our next JKL Media one-off is Jesse's pick, and I'll let Jesse talk about it.
Yeah, so as always, I will always go, it's always about Bruce. This is Little Steven, Bruce's consigliere, which he will talk about that when he was asked to do the Sopranos, he realized that this is the part he'd played for Bruce Springsteen almost since they met. And so he went, oh, yeah, I can do this character. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward. There is going to be a Little Steven documentary out on HBO that talks all about his music, his political work, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on most social media, Jesse Jackson on Facebook. Would love to have you reach out and follow me. Do way too many podcasts to go into now, but I will share that if you are a fan of House of the Dragon, I am part of that is my latest part of the podcast where Small Council Matters, which Lou used to be part of, where we are breaking down the new season of House of Dragons, and it's been a lot of fun. You can find it, look under Tuning into Sci-Fi TV, Small Council Matters, and hear us talk about. We just did a prequel, and you will surprise. This is surprising. They had a list of all the characters, and we had to guess whether they'd be alive or dead at the end of the second season. and I went surprisingly dead on way more. And part of that is because I was thinking they were asking at the end of the series who will be alive and dead, not end of the season. So, but anyway, everyone joked that the Maester of Sunshine and Rainbows was very dark this time.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. And, you can always plug your other podcast if you want to. Bruce Springsteen podcast.
Yep.
You got a Doctor Who podcast.
Yep. Next Stop Everywhere.
You got the
podcast. Yes. And I'm really excited about that. I talked about this last time. John Hyatt is a wonderful singer-songwriter, and his song Have a Little Faith, we are coming up. It is the most iconic song. It's been used in tons of TV shows and movies. And so we're talking about it, and we're going to end up having like 4 or 5 on the episode. And I'm hoping that I've asked a lot of people to send me in their thoughts on the song, and we're going to do a little video of audio montage of people sharing their thoughts on the song. Excellent. And Karen, how about you? Where are you in your book goal this year so far?
Oh, I had to adjust my goal for the first time. I adjusted it down to 200 from 350. And I'm on track. I know I'm on track with it. I'm having a lot of trouble, with reading in many different ways this year. So, I'm still reading fast because 200 is still a lot.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So there's that, and you can reach me at Aliveria on various social medias. And I have a blog, alistuff.com. I am also Aliveria on Goodreads. So if you want to hit me up there. So that's everything, I think.
I think so too.
I want to thank you guys for coming on this ride with me. And I can't wait to see what we do next.
See you in 2.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.